Many franchises have given me a huge interest over the years, but I've never seemed to have time to play them all with the onslaught of new releases usually grabbing my attention. I've been trying to stream more games blind, as one of the franchises I really enjoy but I need to delve a bit more into is the Castlevania series. I really love the games I have played, mainly all the Metroidvania styles, as that's the primary target of the games I've played. And well, boy golly, does Castlevania love its collections. We have seen many releases the last few years. Nintendo timed the DS Dominus collection just recently, as I immediately grabbed it to play when they announced it in the recent Nintendo Direct. Previously, we also had a Classic Collection, which featured a few Classic Vanias, as well as the Advanced Collection, which had 3 of the GBA games on it. We saw Harmony and Dissonance, Aria of Sorrow, and today's subject, Circle of the Moon. Back when the collection dropped, I played a run-through of Aria, as I played that game a few times, and I think it's great. I went through Circle of the Moon right after, as I did own a physical for a long time, but I never started to play it. So I immediately played it right after beating Aria, and I played it for about 30 minutes and got distracted. Just recently, I streamed this game blind over on my Twitch, so together we will see a review plus my initial impressions of the game. Let's see how this holds up in my list of Castlevania games I've already played, and is it worth playing at all? Alright, that's enough yapping. I say we get into this. This is Castlevania Circle of the Moon, released for the Game Boy Advance in 2001. Let's dive in. The name Koji Igarashi is very well known, especially if you are a Castlevania fan. Koji, or known just as Iga by the fans, is well known for popularizing the very famous Metroidvania game style of the Castlevania games. Beginning with the strong critical success of Symphony of the Night, in which he held assistant director, programmer, and scenario writer, Iga had a hand in almost every Metroidvania style, often dubbed the Igavania by fans, until his departure from Konami in about 2014. Iga left Konami and founded his own new company of Artplay in 2014, and has been keeping the spirit of Castlevania alive, as well with the Bloodstained series. It's just another great couple of games that are pretty much Castlevania games, just enough not, though, to avoid any legal issues. Anyways, I just dumped all that exposition for a man who had zero involvement with this game. I say this for the inevitable return to the series, but to show that this game is a little different from the rest. This game this time was still made around by Konami, but with producer Koji Horii at the helm, who doesn't seem to have as much clout as her good friend Iga did. Overall, despite not the name backing it, the game sold and reviewed amazingly. The game was credited for being challenging, amazing to play, and the only real unanimous critique was the dark coloration of the game. The GBA not being decked out with the funky backlight yet, the game sports a much darker visual palette. You see the team take the criticism into account, with the next 2 games on the GBA being Harmony of Dissonance and Aria of Sorrow, much holding a brighter overall look to it. Of course, the Game Boy Advance SP has a nice backlight, or if you play in a collection, we have many workarounds that won't be an issue today, so let's get into the actual plot and meat of the game. Castlevania fans are very familiar with this story, as it keeps to the roots of how these games usually operate. Dracula is on the cusp of reviving again, and 3 vampire hunters are tasked with stopping the Rite. We see the lead as Morris Baldwin, an experienced hunter who already banished the Count once before. His 2 apprentices are his son, Hugh Baldwin, and another one, Nathan Graves. Hugh and Nathan are good friends, both training diligently, but it is our protagonist, Nathan, who gets the Hunter's Whip. Think a Diet non-Belmont vampire killer, and therefore was dubbed Morris' successor upon granting the whip. There is no mention of the legendary Belmonts in any relation to it. Well, it's unknown if they are related at all. Morris has fought off Dracula with Nathan's parents previously, but the parents died in the process. No mention of the legendary bloodline is in this game, to my knowledge at least. The 3 arrive at Totally Not Dracula's castle, held up by Camilla, a reoccurring character usually under Carmilla, which also has history in novels, even predating Bram Stoker's Dracula by about 25 years. Anyways, this takes place in her Austrian castle, where Dracula is revived, somewhat, and is annoyed by getting interrupted by the trio as they break through. Dracula breaks the floor beneath Hugh and Nathan, leaving him to duke it out, presumably over some old beef with Morris. The apprentice duo plummet into the catacombs, where they have to crawl out and save their mentor. Hugh leaves Nathan, feeling it is his duty as Morris' son to rescue him, and of course the ever-growing jealousy for not being named the heir. Nathan is left alone and just told to escape by Hugh, but of course we have other plans. And so begins our adventure solely as Nathan. The gameplay loop of Metroidvanias is rather simple. You explore, you'll eventually fight a boss, and you'll get an item that allows for more free traversal, and with a heavy dose of backtracking. We go to areas yet unexplored, Nathan has limited movement in the beginning, but of course gets abilities like a double jump, dash, wall jump, tackle, and among others. The caveat is that movement is an odd double hybrid between Classicvania and the Metroid style. Nathan moves incredibly slow initially. The dash boots are given pretty much as soon as possible, but it's kind of annoying. Of course, it's not really an issue once you get the dash boots because now you can run pretty much whenever. There is no stamina, of course. The constant double tap to sprint is exhausting, I will have to admit. It breaks all momentum and it makes the platforming feel really chunky. My thumbs start to get sore from constantly having to double tap on the D-pad after long periods of playing. I wish you could just auto dash or at least toggle it or something. Many jumps I miss by the complete stop Nathan does when trying to jump, and I let go a split hair too early. As movement increases, it does get better, I'll have to admit, but I never really got fully accustomed even after the credits roll. Of course, being a Metroidvania, there are plenty of secrets to find throughout the castle, rewarding exploration heavily, which is, of course, very nice. While the main path is never too obvious, going a wrong way never really felt too punishing, as you usually got some sort of permanent buff. Battling the many monsters with Nathan's whip feels like it more in line with the Castlevania, with sub-weapons and hearts to use at your disposal. There is some of the Igavania influence with level ups and armor and equipment, but it isn't too in-depth in some of the other games, but that's totally fine. The game also opts out of shops of any kind, usually commonplace in some of the Igavanias, to just actually having random drops. This is once again usually fine with armor, but it takes forever to find anything like healing. I see some issue with that. The game is genuinely challenging, some part to the sluggish movement, but other enemies just pack super huge punches. Bosses are for the most part difficult as hell too, but usually all pretty solid for the most part. It gave you much time to experiment with the game's core system that is highlighted here. And lastly, the big mechanic here is the DSS system, the dual setup system. You may find cards that drop from some enemies. Once you have one from each row, you could combine the cards for various effects, expending your magic meter. There are a wide range of bonus effects, some to simply apply elemental buffs to the whip, others change the weapon type to that of like a giant sword, others provide stat buffs and even AoE spells with the button combo. The system is really cool, and the range of combos are insane. Some obviously proving to be superior, but I think it's neat all the same. I just wish it didn't take me 3 hours to figure out how to use the cards. Yeah, I don't know what to say, I'm kinda dumb. I do say the card system is an awesome way to make the game stand out, not without the heavily flaws in the system. So first up, drop rates. It's not guaranteed to drop from the enemies, and without guides or the re-release showing you which enemies are capable of card dropping, you are in the mercy of RNGesus. Simply put, it's 2024, use a guide for Christ's sake. Next, the game makes you guess what the effect does. Mostly, I don't really have an issue with this. The bottom row is usually similar for effects like the Salamander card proving to have some sort of fire affinity, and so on and so forth, but for a few, it's very tough to figure out. The stat ups are really cool, but will not show unless procced in play, like the luck stat, meaning you have to have the combo equipped and then get the increased drop rate to happen. For that, it is nice that the game shows a little effect burst from Nathan when it works, and it's a very nice touch, but others are very confusing. One card type absorbs a specific element, one I figured out by complete accident. And also by accident was the aforementioned spells, which require a half circle button input that I got by simply fucking around until I triggered the effect. Lastly, some of the best cards are hidden to the endgame, or otherwise just very well hidden regardless. Some are in the battle arena, an optional area which provides a brutal gauntlet, also stripping you of your DSS powers. This doubly sucks as you can't artificially boost your luck, something I did quite often when attempting to get the cards. The other cards not hidden in the battle arena are hidden by secret enemies that are usually stuck in areas where you have fought an earlier boss, near the endgame. Of course, most of the boss rooms are dead ends and you have no practical sense to ever go back to them, so I wouldn't be surprised if most people were unaware of that they existed. In a sense, it makes good reason for powerful cards to be obtained under more difficult circumstances, but I digress all the same. There is a very well-known and easy to pull off glitch, which allows you to use card combos that you don't own, something I did try near the end, so use and research at your own risk, I guess. Honestly, it does beat farming for that random chance, and if you're just trying to do a quick playthrough of the game. Finishing the story, Nathan and Hugh bump into each other a few more times throughout the story, Hugh seemingly more aggressive and resentful over their past. Morris is to be sacrificed to Dracula so he can regain his full power since the trio did meddle earlier. Nathan soon eventually encounters Camilla in the sewers. You know, just girly things, doing stuff in the dirty sewers. And she does taunt Nathan by alluding to Hugh being under Dracula's control. Nathan does defeat Camilla and encounters Hugh again shortly after. Hugh attacks Nathan, confirming the suspicions and showing Dracula's control over Hugh's mind. The 2-2 fight, and Nathan wins, breaking the mind control. He regains sanity and apologizes for his actions, admitting to his father's decision to make Nathan his successor instead. Hugh commits to becoming stronger and being someone his father will be proud of, and tasks Hugh with saving Morris from Dracula. The final fight begins with a standard Dracula fight, but he leaves midway to regain more power. Hugh comes in and releases Morris from his imprisonment, and Nathan follows in pursuit of Dracula. The true fight begins, and honestly, it sucks. A lot. Oh, hello. Alright. Holy shit. Alright, is there a place I can grind up hearts real quick? Most bosses felt very difficult. This fight is straight up annoying. First off, every hit does way too much damage, the attacks are frequent, and the hitbox is very small, especially in his final phase. This phase includes him charging a few times, this attack usually bringing you to an insta-kill at most levels you fight him at, and then he transforms into an eyeball surrounded by a bunch of bats. He only really takes damage in the eye. Very shortly, he repeats this over and over, and it's just a constant cycle of trying to dodge the attack and not getting hit by his insta-kill. If you didn't grind potions, you're dead. A lot. As alluded to, I did abuse the card glitch here. The Thunderbird and Uranus combo was a pretty great card, AoE for lightning spells, and then the Unicorn and Uranus combo for a nice heal that you could get without having to grind for potions. Honestly, can't say it felt too awful, and man, it seems like the internet also felt this way, as looking online, it seems like most people are in agreement that it is one of the hardest final fights in the series. Well, I guess regardless on how you feel in the final boss, Dracula is defeated. For reals this time. He states he will be back regardless, and he will keep coming back always. Nathan does retort, saying people will always be around to stop him. The castle crumbles away as the three watch from a distance. Nathan is given the title of Master Hunter, and Hugh vows to train harder and make up for his mistakes. The credits roll and we see the end of the game. Upon completion, you get unlocked the Magician mode, gaining full access to the DSS cards at the start, but Nathan's stats are that of a magical blast cannon. As the game implies, it wants you to put a focus on utilizing the DSS system to the full effect. I did not play this mode, but it's a rather cool idea for a mode in all honesty, and it does help with the earlier critique I placed on many cards getting unlocked in the final hours. Of course, you don't have to abuse an easy exploit, and I'm sure that's also a boon to many people too. So moving into the critique part of this, I already addressed a few of the points, but to readdress some of them, the movement is very sluggish and honestly pretty off-putting. It's what kind of drove me to not feeling driven to continue this game a few years back. And to the game's credit, as I said, the movement does improve very quickly and the level design is often made around it. I felt a lot of areas felt very vertical, and near the end when you get an infinite jump ability, it makes moving around the castle a breeze. The DSS system is cool in theory, and I think it's great. I already addressed the issues I felt with the system has, but once again, I give the game credit for the wide range of abilities they have to offer, even if they aren't all equal. I do not hold that against the game, since having 100 possible combinations being all equal is simply impossible. Like I said, if you play this game for the first time, I would highly recommend guides for the DSS cards to save the headache of trying to figure them out, trying to grind for them, and all that sorts. This system has lived on and been improved with many subsequent games, like with the Sorrow games, but this will stand out as a very iconic system for the game. Poison Cloud is kinda hype. The story is, well, okay. There is nothing too groundbreaking to follow here, the only really standout character to me is Hugh. He has a decent arc throughout the game, albeit very limited interactions. Him turning around at the end and accepting his own weakness, then training better, is genuinely nice to see as a rival character to Nathan. I had honestly preferred this outcome to him dying or something, or staying evil. Nathan isn't really that interesting of a protagonist as well. He doesn't really have much of a personality. Having the game delve into more dynamic on these two trainees would have been preferred to me, and maybe give more understanding on why Hugh became so jealous of Nathan in the first place, other than that he was mad that he couldn't be a Nepo baby, I guess. Camilla, as a secondary villain here, didn't really do much either. Even Death, a common side character, has no spoken lines and is just a boss fight in the second half of the game. While it seems like I'm going really hard in the story, it obviously is not a deal breaker. This is clearly not a story-driven game, just would have preferred a tad more. And as alluded to earlier, I also have issues with the item drops as well. No shop isn't too insane to me, but simple potions and healing items are few and far between. Flat healing, once again, is fine in all fairness, and I mean, hell, the game is tough. But for me, I have personal issues with the status effects like Poison or Curse. They last too damn long on your character, and if you don't have the right healing potion, you're also screwed. You shouldn't need to grind for these or have to for so long. This also doesn't help that enemies that give you said status effects usually do so after one hit. It's infuriating to say the least. Curse makes you unable to use any attack, simply making you useless, which is just also great. You're kind of stuck there, sitting doing nothing. Trying to move on to more positive sides, the art style and music are stellar. There's really no complaints here. The iconic portraits that the Vania characters have are amazing, and the music is genuinely fun to listen to. The dark atmosphere of the castle, the enemy, and boss designs all slap. Bosses are another highlight, except for Dracula. They're all challenging, but for the most part, pretty good. They were tough and frustrated me, but mostly in a good way, and they all were fine even if I died multiple times. Except for Dracula. And of course, the game's length is pretty short too, all things considered. There's plenty of options to do, like grinding for the DSS cards, all the extra little bits to fill out 100% map completion, the battle arena, and all that sort of junk. And of course, if you're hankering for a second playthrough, there's the Magician mode that I previously mentioned. There's a lot of cool extra modes in Castlevania, and this sounds like another great one if you want to try it out. It's pretty much readily available on any current consoles too, with the Advanced Collection I previously mentioned, so it's really easy to pick up, and just try it if you don't. I mean, the other games are also on there too. It's a good deal for the price, plus all the extras I have. These Castlevania deals are pretty fantastic. Get these collections, honestly, it's great game preservation. And really, that's it. Circle of the Moon is an interesting entry. It is by no means a bad game, but it is by far the best in my opinion. It never reaches the heights of the other games, not only in Metroidvania, but even Classicvania entries. It is pointless to think for a long time in my opinion that if Ego was involved that he would have done anything better. As said, the ideas were all good, and I think it might just be preference alone. I mean, as I said earlier, the game did review and sell very well. To be honest, I'm not too sure on the overall consensus of this game. Obviously, it doesn't stay in the same heights for me as some of the other high-rated entries. In regards to my recommendation, any hardcore Castlevania fan would have already played it or will play it eventually, but I would say other games are a better entry point for the Castlevania entries. You wouldn't be missing out if you did skip this one, in my fairness. There's a lot of cool ideas, the story is whatever, aside from Hugh being, I think, a generally pretty good character. The boss fights are okay, except for Dracula, he sucks too. It's all around a pretty solid package that I was fine with, but I don't really see myself going back to anytime in the near future. I did enjoy my time with this game. I really can't wait to play the other entries that I have yet to get to, because I really want to play more Castlevania. Well, that's all I really have to say for this game. Thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, do whatever. I really appreciate checking out. Let me know if there's other games you want me to stream, whether it be Castlevania, which one do you want me to hit first, or just any games regardless. I did appreciate my time with this, as I said. I don't want to be too harsh in the game. I just think it's not for me, rather than being a terrible game. I don't really think it is at all. So, regardless, that's all. I'll leave you guys out. Have a good night, week, whatever you're doing. See you later. Peace.